Maddie was big in every way, except her physical size. There's two ways of being big, and that is to come into a room and suck the life out of it. She actually brought the room to life every time she walked into it.
Well, as a child, she was exhausting. She's always been a lot like me in that she's kind of an overabundant bundle of energy.
Maddie was crazy. She was loud, as everyone likes to say, but she also was one of the most caring people I'd ever met. She was super bubbly and touchy and outgoing, and I was a little bit more secluded and more mature, and as the older sister, I kind of took on that responsibility. Even though we were super different, we still had a really close relationship.
Maddie was always a ray of sunshine, honestly. She never failed to put a smile on my face, to make me laugh, and I really appreciated that about her. I never had a bad time when I was hanging out with her.
She was very much like the older sister that you could go to anything with, because she was very brutally honest and would speak her mind.
She always knew what to say, the truth, even if you didn't want to hear it, you heard it. She was just always there for you, no matter the circumstance.
Maddie was just always moving and just very athletic, and everything she tried, athletic-wise, she could do.
We always knew that she had something in gymnastics. Not only did she love it so much and was so passionate about it, but she was good.
My name is Jim Fredrickson. I am the owner of Gym Kinetics Gymnastics School here in Mokina. I'm also the head coach of our competitive program. When I started coaching her, she was probably here 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. And then as she moved up in level, I spent quite a bit more time with her, and we got really close as a coach-gymnast relationship. She was always a kid that always cared about her team, though. Even when she was little, she was concerned with others probably more than herself, and she was just that kind of kid. She always worried about everybody.
I was at work, and my friend from high school texted me and said, "Hey, are you and Maddie and your parents okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm in New York right now, so I would assume so. Why?" And he said, "Well, my sister was driving home from school and she saw what looked like your car in a really bad accident."
So it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. Maddie and two of her teammates had just gotten done with school. Maddie typically drove the two girls who were younger than her.
I remember hearing Mad Dog scream, and she swerved the car, and that's when I realized we were rolling.
I got a call. Some woman, I never knew who this woman was, got on the phone, and she said, "I'm here, your daughter's been in a bad accident." I yelled to Frank, and I hopped in my car and I just left.
So I hopped in the car. I was not far behind her. I was parked in a parking lot. So I ran around the building, and that's the first sign I saw of it, and I had no idea if it was a small accident, big accident. And when I saw that it was a rollover and the roof was caved in, and as bad as it was, and my knees buckled, and I ran right to the ambulance. I peeked my head in, and I saw the three girls sitting on a bench inside the ambulance, and they were just sitting up. And talk about a relief. You just, because I had no idea what to expect. And then I saw her, and I couldn't even see a scratch. The two other girls, I think, had a couple of scratches, cuts. Maddie was,
Maddie was okay.
She was okay, and that was, an incredible relief, because the car was just destroyed.
Later, I FaceTimed Maddie, and I broke down. It really hit how lucky I was that she was still alive.
One day, Frank and I were sitting in the living room, and she just said, "Hey, after that accident," she goes, "I kind of realized, if anything like that ever happens again and the outcome isn't as good," she goes, "I just wanted you guys to know that I want to be an organ donor."
And I jumped in and I said, "Whoa, no, we're not having this conversation. No, we don't talk about this stuff."
Yeah.
But I am so grateful that we did, and that she pushed on and said, "No, you've got to know. wasn't as good. She said, I want you to have something good come from something tragic.
And of course, after just, rolling up on a car accident like that, I thought, wow, okay, well, good for you. We're not going to have to worry about that, though, because that was enough of a scare for a lifetime. We're not going to have that happen again.
This form commemorates my choice to attend the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. By signing this form, I embrace the Division III philosophy.
Her friend had just asked her, hey, we've got an extra ticket to the Shawn Mendes concert. Do you want to come? And she was like, oh my God, yes. She was so excited. That day, she got ready. It was a normal day.
She went to practice that morning. She was fine. And then they were all going with Bella's mom and Bella's little sister and a couple of their other friends. So she just ran out the door. So I literally had texted her and I said, don't forget we've got Auntie Booga's retirement tomorrow. So, don't get home too late. She said, yeah, no problem, Mom. And then we got the call not even a half hour later that she had gone down.
My mom just answered the phone and she seemed a little shaken up.
And they said, you need to get up here now. She's already coded twice. And so, yeah.
We gunned it. We got up there as quick as we can. They brought us in right away, and when they found her, she was unresponsive. She was clutching her asthma inhaler on the bathroom floor. They said they got her heart back beating again, got her intubated, and she crashed again on the ambulance ride to the hospital. While we were in that room, they came rushing in and said, she's crashing again. We waited, and then they came in and said, you can come in. There's a separate room by that. We're working on her. And we walked in, and I remember the first thing I remember, and I'm sure you do too, is they had her on her side, and they rolled her over, and her eyes were open.
Yeah.
And we looked in her eyes, and
There was nothing in there.
I think we both knew. We didn't say it, and we had hope, but we both knew, I think, then that it was different. She wasn't really there.
I got a call from one of Maddie's teammates' mom. She says Maddie was at a concert last night and had an asthma attack, and she's in the hospital and it's not good. I hung up the phone and got in the car and went to the hospital. I didn't know what to expect at all, but as soon as I walked in the room, I pretty much did a 180 and had to walk out right away because she was hooked up to all kinds of things and she just didn't look like the Maddie that I've known for all those years. And it took a few minutes before I could walk back into the room and, I guess, deal with it.
When they took us upstairs to the PICU, before I went in, they had me sit down with one of I believe it was a family care specialist, who just kind of warned me, like, this is not gonna be easy to see, and you need to kind of prepare yourself because she's not gonna look like herself right now. I walked in and it was a lot, because she's, laying in a bed, she's intubated, she's got wires everywhere. My mom pulled me into a side room and she sat me down and she told me, we don't know for sure yet, but she's probably not gonna make it. We're pretty sure she's brain dead. So that was like the first moment that I feel like I had kind of known, but that obviously was the final, like, oh yeah, this is happening.
Right as they were finishing up the last part of the brain death test, they brought Frank and Sam and I and Jim in. And so we were able to be in there with her when they declared.
After multiple tests and everything, we met with Shannon with Gift of Hope. We were really comfortable with her. It was just kind of an immediate, like, almost a sigh of relief.
I remember we met Shannon Wyatt, and we had this immediate connection because she's just so compassionate, and it wasn't like, okay, down to business, here's the clipboard, let's talk. It was like, tell me about Maddie.
They made the decision when it was time to meet with me, and they came in the room, and I remember Frank, Cindy, and Sam were all there, and they obviously were devastated and crying. And I think this was like the first family that I met that I cried before I even like spoke to them. I mean, I'm sure I introduced myself, but then we just sat at the table and just like sobbed the whole time. Usually when I speak with families, I ask them to tell me about their loved one first, and they told me about her, and that's when they shared that she was in the vehicle accident, and it was a pretty significant one, and she told her parents, you know, if anything ever happens to me, donate anything and everything, because I want to help as many people as possible. They're grieving, they're devastated, and yet somehow they open this like little trust door to trust this one person to let them come into their life, and they trust us to take care of their loved one. So I think that's my favorite part, is just like seeing that crossover between the devastation to now this is something that we want to do to honor our loved one, and this is the person who's going to help us get there.
She's got to come to families at their absolute darkest moment and try to help them see that there's possible light in this situation. And you don't really want to necessarily hear that at that time. There's so much hope in being able to donate your loved one's organs and tissues that really helps you get through that grieving process.
Gift of Hope is the organization that procures organs for recipients for most of Illinois and Northwest Indiana. They are the organ procurement organization, the OPO. They were the ones that worked to get Maddie's organs placed.
My name is Lisa Hinsdale. I'm the manager of organ operations at Gift of Hope Organ and Tissue Donor Network. As the OPO, our role in organ donation is quite a few things. First and foremost, we are the ones who clinically manage the patient, who take care of the donor families, who talk to the donor families about organ and donation. We educate the public, we educate hospitals, public officials, etc. on organ and tissue transplant as well.
Once we find out that the patient is eligible to be an organ donor, then my role is to go to the hospital and be ready to speak to a family either after a family meeting, after someone's been declared brain dead, or the family's going to withdraw life support.
We work with the hospital after the hospital tries endlessly to save the person's life. If that does not happen, then we get introduced to the family to offer them the opportunity for organ and tissue donation.
The organs that can be donated include the heart, the lungs, the liver, the pancreas, and the kidneys. An organ donor can certainly donate beyond solid organs, can also donate corneas, skin, bone, tissue. All of those are life-saving and life-enhancing organs.
Maddie was able to donate both of her kidneys to 2 different recipients. She donated her heart and her liver to one recipient. Lungs went to asthma research. Both of her corneas, ligaments, and skin and bones have gone to, so far, 9 different people throughout the country.
We're going down the checklist, and they said, would you be willing to donate her heart? Check, yes. Would you be willing? Liver? Yes. Kidneys? Yes. Tissue? Yes. Corneas and eyes? Wait a minute. I paused, Cindy paused. We're like, why is this so hard?
Right.
But Shannon was great. She said, that's the one that gives a lot of people pause. That's where the life is. You look in somebody's eyes and you see the life. And that's what we remembered about Maddie, her big brown eyes.
We actually had friends who were surprised that it was an open casket because she was a donor.
In March 2008, Shannon donated one of her kidneys to someone in need.
I don't share with every family that I'm a living donor. I think I kind of feel like the ones that need to hear it, I'll share that. And it's typically like the ones that really struggle with, is this the right decision for our family? And that's when I can share with them that I'm a living donor and it was the best decision of my life.
Living donation is giving all or part of an organ to another person. The living donor continues to lead their life after donation.
Living donation is typically someone who is related to the person that's in need of the transplant. Deceased donor would either be someone that was already declared brain dead, or the family's going to withdraw life support. They have to pass away within 90 minutes typically in order to help other people, because that's how long the organs can go without the oxygenation from the machines in order to still be healthy to be transplanted. And then if they pass away in that time frame, that's also a legal time of death as well. That's a cardiac time of death, and then they can help other people.
I think anytime you talk about death, it turns into a little bit of an awkward conversation, but it's an important conversation to have. Everyone is going to die at some point. And bring up that conversation with your parents so that they know what you would want to do, so that they can look past their grief if something were to ever happen to you and make the decision that you would want to make, is extremely important. So sit down, have that conversation with your parents, and let them know that you want to be an organ and tissue donor and that you would want to help somebody if something happened to you.
According to the Illinois Secretary of State's office, the Drive for Life legislation in Illinois allows 16 and 17-year-olds to register on the state donor registry when they get their driver's license or state ID.
I think it's one of the first binding important decisions that a 16-year-old is allowed to make about their own body. And I think it's important that that be a decision that they've come to after learning and understanding. But I think it's really important that that 16 and 17-year-olds know that they can take ownership of that decision and of what happens to their body should, God forbid, they be put in that position, and that they should talk about that decision with their family members. Because knowing Maddie's decision in those moments, it gave us some solace in knowing that we knew we were doing the right thing. We knew we were doing what she wanted, and that was really important to us. It was like the last gift we could give her. And so for teens to understand that, and to understand not only the importance of deciding to register, but then talking about that with their families is so critical.
There's a lot of parents out there that maybe their kids want to be organ donors or tissue donors, and the parents don't know about it. In Maddie's case, since she had the conversation with her parents knew that that's what she wanted. There's some parents that don't want to have to go through that process, and it might be helpful for them to be able to go through that process if they knew that they were very passionate about helping somebody else. It would make it easier for those people to make those decisions that, yes, let's move forward with that.
Yes, you may have checked the box to be an organ donor when you signed up for your license or on the national registry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your decision will be respected. Especially for minors, your family has the final decision on whether or not you're a donor. If your family doesn't know how important it is to you, if they hear, yeah, you're probably gonna have to spend a couple extra days here and it's gonna be a long process, they might say no. So it's so important to have the conversation about how important organ donation is to you, because you want other people to respect your decision.
About 96% of people have a favorable opinion of organ and tissue donation, but somewhere between 50 and 58% of people are actually registered. So somewhere in there, people are in favor of the idea of being an organ and tissue donor, but they don't actually go and take the step to register to be a donor.
I hadn't thought a lot about organ and tissue donation before this all happened. After I realized that Maddie had this conversation with my parents about how important it is to her, it really stuck out to me how important that was for everyone else, and that we needed to spread that message. We're going to be able to make an impact on generations to come. Why wouldn't we want to save these lives? So it's just become very, very important to me, especially because it was important to her.